Welcome to Aaron and George's Film Cafe as we host the WatchTower podcast, the film review podcast of the Towercast Network. A lot of new faces tonight, so thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for
it's probably because of the movie, you know?
Well, I would think so. It's pretty.
It's not for us.
It's got this cult following, which is really special. But before we get into the movie, I have to introduce myself. I'm your humble film servant, Carlos de la Torre, offering you a writer-director perspective on the movie we just saw tonight. Wow. And I have to introduce my fellow co-host. We're not starting with you. John Eric Castro, offering us the actor perspective.
I'm going to try to give you the actor's perspective, you know.
And this, in terms of performances, man.
I know.
Very, very
I think Scarlet took it.
Wow.
Over Bill.
All right, little preview there. Mr. Michael DeLaw offering a cinematography perspective.
Guys. Thank you, baby, on the side.
I always appreciate the Toto in Africa shirt, you know? It's just fun.
It's fun. It's got little zebras on it.
Uh-huh.
And then they're eating something. I don't know what. Yeah.
They're eating something? Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so if you're familiar with our podcast, we're gonna switch it up a little bit tonight. It's just, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. We usually wait till the end to get some audience perspective, some audience participation. But this time around, we want it the other way. We want people to come up, tell us their opinions, tell us their ratings, any thoughts on the film, any questions that we may have some perspective on. So if anybody wants to come up, you'll see Mr. Austin Young right here. There's a chair there and a microphone. And ready for anybody who wants to just give their thoughts on the film before we jump into our conversation about it.
Did any of you like the film?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing one nod, two nods.
Yeah. How many first timers for Lost in Translation?
Oh, really?
Wow! So just mostly fans, people coming back to see the film, right?
It's a classic.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool. But new faces too for the film.
Yeah.
So awesome. Cool. Well, anybody have anything they want to share about the film? Either with your first experience or coming back to it and revisiting it.
And if you're scared of the microphone, you can give a pleasant thumbs up. I'm looking at you. You want to come up? Please.
Do you guys think it's a female perspective?
Okay.
So the question wasn't because we on the audio for the podcast if we think it's a female perspective.
Absolutely not. I'm joking.
I say 50-50.
Yeah,
50-50.
You know, it's definitely a shared perspective, but
Yeah.
a lot of people would probably argue that it's through the male gaze too, which is odd because it's a female director. But we do.
Think so?
I think we. Well, you know what? I'm a man. I might empathize with Bill's character a little more. But I think it's pretty even.
Is there anything like how much did they get screen time?
Screen time? I don't think so.
But it
That'd be
definitely
interesting.
felt like Scarlet got more screen time.
You think so?
Yeah, from the beginning and all the moments of her spending kind of walking through like Japan and everything like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
I think she got a little bit more screen time, and I think it was interesting because more of the introspective moments of her character were actually going out and like looking into herself and all that kind of stuff.
And for those listening and watching at home, if you haven't guessed or you haven't read the thumbnail, we're talking about Lost in Translation. Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation, and it's funny that you guys say that because the character, Scarlet's character, is actually was based on her.
Really?
She very much based it on herself. She went through a similar thing with a director husband of hers, who's one of your favorite directors, Spike Jonze.
Really?
Spike Jonze
Oh,
is who the
yeah.
Giovanni Ribisi character is based on.
Wow.
And Anna Faris's character is loosely based on Cameron Diaz, who is rumored that they had an affair while Sofia and Spike were together.
That's crazy.
So, and if you're not familiar with Spike Jonze's work, I mean, he's a phenomenal director. We covered her on this podcast.
Yeah, we covered her. I don't think we covered, but Where the Wild Things Are.
Oh, that's right. No, I think we did talk about it.
Did
podcast,
we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did then.
Being John Malkovich, stuff like that we didn't cover
Yeah,
yet.
not that
But he's a fantastic director.
Yeah.
But lots of controversy when this film came out because
It was
pretty
directly
obvious.
inspired.
Yeah. So
But I will say that
maybe that's a part of the argument to say Scarlet got more screen time. She got a little more
Do you
perspective.
think it was because her scenes were more like quiet, introspective?
that's what I was saying. They lingered a little bit more. But
That's what I'm saying. Like it feels like it.
To go back to the original question, which thank you for providing. I appreciate it. It being from a female's perspective, the original question that I was asked on the side, off camera, was, is it a guy movie. I think it was, right? That was so.
Was it a guy movie?
Yeah, and
What do you think is a guy movie?
like that's
Oh.
Because you get both perspectives.
no, but I guess why I found it intriguing the first time around is it makes you have to kind of question like what is a guy movie, and then also what is this trying to accomplish. And I think it's that subconscious kind of male gaze that you're seeing.
I also think that it's coming from a place of naturally the theme, the very common themes here are loneliness, right? And how each of them cope with loneliness in their own worlds. But I also think as romantic as the relationship is between them, I also think it's kind of this, you're gonna be okay, kid. Like,
that's interesting.
You know, I think it's more of that than it is the female male division there.
Interesting.
It's important to note, by the way, that the reason this film that we're doing this film, and if you're familiar with the podcast, each of us usually gets a pick. This time around, we kind of got together and talked to Doug and Rebecca here at the Film Cafe, and we're celebrating International Women's Month, right? So because of that, let's focus on a female perspective. And female filmmaker, female lead, strong female lead, that type of thing. So we kind of got some choices together, and then Mr. John Eric Castro was like, I really want to do this one. You know, let's do this one. So
I'm a big Bill Murray fan, so I had to pick this one. And then Scarlett Johansson. Was this one of her first movies?
One of, but she had done. She was kind of a child actor. But by the way, she was 17 while filming this film. So
really,
she was 17 playing a recent college graduate in this. So
was there a reason for that? Like why they went so young?
I just think Sophia's gonna Sophia it up.
It was
and
to
pick,
match kind of like her.
Scarlett, kind of.
Yeah, her experience too. But I also think Scarlett played very mature, you know, so she played older. She did really good. And she had already had a few roles under her belt at this point. You know, she had done a couple of things before this. So
was this
mostly supporting characters.
This was the one that kind of
This is what put her on the map, for sure. For sure. I mean, this film, just to give you guys a little bit of background, 2003 was nominated for a ton of things, to include Bill Murray getting nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. The film won Best Original Screenplay for Sofia, her first Oscar. This was her directorial debut. And if you're not familiar with what family she comes from with the last name Coppola's, or
she's
she's Nicolas Cage's cousin. No, yes, definitely yes. But she's Francis Ford Coppola, director of The Godfather, Apocalypse Now. It's his daughter, you know. So she went into the family business, and not wine but filmmaking. So she obviously comes with a pretty great perspective. A lot of the scenes you saw were inspired directly by her dad's work, and she admits that. So I think she embraces the whole, you know, living under the shadow type of thing. But at the same time, her voice in cinema is strong.
Yeah,
it's very strong.
There's so much merit and so much original takes when I think you look at this film and compare it to like other things that are out there.
Yeah.
We'll get more into the, I guess, references and our each perspective.
But and you're right. Just to give that little bit of background too, this film got a lot of Oscar attention. It was nominated for Best Picture. It was one of the first. No, it was the first time a female director was ever nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Producing and Directing for Best Picture, Producing and Directing in the same year. So that's pretty special, you know. And on her first swing of the bat. So it's really cool that this film got that attention. Because of that, naturally, it's going to catapult people like Scarlett into the stratosphere. And Bill Murray into more of a drama kind of seeking. You know, obviously he's known for his comedy in the 70s.
And he's able to slip it in there. Like he plays this depressed, you know. But he's able to slip in his little comedic relief.
It might very well be autobiographical, right? At least for him to play this character. What I do know about him being cast is that Sofia naturally was an unknown, even though her dad's reputation. She had never directed anything. Bill Murray at the time, I don't know if this has changed, but Bill Murray didn't have an agent. He didn't have a manager.
I think it's still that way.
Yeah, he represents himself. And at the time, literally what he would do is have a phone service, a 1-800 number that he would, you know, give to people, whoever he wanted to potentially work with. He gave this to Wes Anderson. Because they had just worked together, right? Rushmore, everything. So Wes Anderson's friends with Sofia, and Sofia got the number from him. And Sofia pestered him, as she says, for months, just leaving messages on his voicemail.
On the 1-800 number?
On the 1-800 number. And then, you know, the rumor goes that Bill Murray only ever answers these messages if he's genuinely interested in the project.
That's cool.
In the scenario, he was. But a fun fact Austin and I were talking about right before recording today is that she got this verbal agreement from him. I want to do it. I'm down. As far as making the actual film, I mean, this was a tiny budget, $4 million, but grossed 30 times its budget. Literally, we're talking about the 120 million range worldwide. So they stole shots. They went into production in Japan and just kind of, got the crew.
Very guerrilla filmmaker.
Very guerrilla filmmaker, and I think that presents some insecurities for her because she doesn't hear from Bill, and we're talking about a couple weeks before filming, stuff and everything. A week before filming, he lands in Japan.
That's Bill Murray's style, dude.
And so again, I think this was just him thinking about like, all right, maybe this is something special, and nobody else was attached that.
That's probably just waiting. Like, does this movie call me? Like, does it talk to me?
Oh yeah,
right.
No, he jumps onto a lot of those kind of projects. Yeah. I'm gonna tie it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just going back into questions.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear them.
Absolutely.
I want to hear them.
Go ahead.
So, real quick, to my Aunt Linda, who came out, thank you so much. And out of curiosity, along with the question, what did you think of the film? Did you like it? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how should I say it?
Would you like to say it on the microphone?
No.
Okay.
I think
No
it was
problem.
very respectful
Oh, okay.
of both of them.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Because nowadays people meet, they get together, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they were just sharing something they had in common, which they were both lonely.
Yeah.
And they were having a good time with each other, but they each knew that nothing was going to work between them. So,
Yeah.
and I admired that.
Sure.
That's
You
beautiful.
know.
It's very, very nice film.
Would you give it a rating?
1 to 10?
1 to 10?
I'd probably give it a 10.
A 10. Wow.
Wow.
Very cool.
I really liked
Very cool.
it.
That's wonderful.
And by the way, we don't just welcome positive opinions about this. If you didn't like this film and you thought, I read a review a while back that somebody said this is the Seinfeld of movies. Nothing's happening in the entire film. I mean, and it's a film about nothing, to a certain degree. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that
notion, but some people don't like it, and that's fair. So if you guys have a negative opinion, we're here.
Speaking of negative opinions,
yeah,
sir up at the front, I know you had
Putting him on the spot.
one. I know you wanted to share something earlier. I don't know if you had a question or a rating.
So I know it's been 20 years. I remember
yeah.
when I first saw the movie, because back then it was all just word of mouth.
in theaters you saw this movie?
No, I
or?
saw it at home.
At home, okay.
Yeah, in VHS.
Sure,
so
sure.
like, it was pretty much just.
It was a blockbuster pick of one night, and you took a chance.
Watching it and then just seeing Bill Murray and then just kind of getting into the whole story plot of, last minute he joined the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His first scene was in the hospital. He shot that first scene, pushing her into the hospital.
Right.
So they're there waiting for him to film it. So like knowing all that and knowing the whole story behind being John Malkovich,
Right.
Spike Jones, so like that just got my interest going with this movie. So like that's where I became a big fan of it. I love the movie. It's a story. It's like a love story, but it's also just a coming of age story.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I couldn't agree more. Awesome.
And then rating 1 to 10?
Oh, 11.
11.
You're gonna crank it up one.
It just hits every marker for
I
you.
think at the time I was like maybe 20, let's say, like around 20. So it's kind of like that age where she is. Like
Sure.
where she's trying to find herself.
Yeah.
So at that age, you're trying to find yourself too. So
Yeah.
those were just-
Right.
Still holds up.
It's amazing, like how much being in that time or like remembering that time affects your opinion towards the movie. And I can see so much sentimental value when watching it, and even seeing it for the first time. Like it was my first time seeing it, but it has that effect where you can connect with it on any level, even though we're obviously not in a cafe in Japan and we can't understand everything that's going on. Like we can connect with those themes and emotions and ideas, and
And it's great. It's timeless, right? That's what a lot
Yeah.
of cinema has going for it. It's timeless. This could have taken place, with the exception of the flip phone. This could have taken place anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
anywhere, anytime, and it's super universal. And I probably was exposed to this film 10 years ago, and I was going through the same thing. So very much so. I couldn't agree more.
it's a really great movie. I mean, especially the whole bar scene, how they're all just there.
Yeah.
They just kind of come together because they were both lost.
right.
Yeah.
You go to the bar, you kind of see them open up a little bit more.
Mhm.
Kind of go see them through the whole adventures they all go through. They end up at the karaoke bar and just go there and just hearing all the music.
Yeah.
Every single song in that scene is like just perfect.
Yeah.
Phoenix to just hits the spot.
And they needed that escapism, right? And I think that's all it was. I mean, they really didn't know each other from Adam and Eve. And either of them, by the way, we never get them introduced to each other. They never officially introduced to each other by name, anyways, in the film. Yeah. So this is just thrown unorthodox way of a meet cute, and they just get thrown into this world with each other, and I think that's super special.
On a side note, I will add in that I thought Phoenix was a really interesting choice, and it's only because
Sofia,
other than that,
she's friends with the lead singer, I think. Oh, okay, that's right. Her current husband. She has two kids with him. That's right.
I just also thought that the fact that like Phoenix always tripped me out that they're like a French band, and when they sing in English, they sound perfect, and then when you hear like interviews and all that, it's like they're trying to like figure out like the right words and everything. Like it's that weird like mix match. But
imagine that dynamic in Japan. No, another layer to that.
Oh,
no, that's cool. That's really good.
We have another question.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Your name?
Julian.
Thank you for your perspective, man. Thank you so
Julian.
much. Appreciate it.
Just wanted to see what you guys thought. How do you guys see Sofia's style of filming compared to her dad's? Like, what do you guys see?
She has her own voice. By the way, and if maybe they didn't hear from the back in the audio, but the question was, how do we feel Sofia Coppola's work compares to her dad's? I'm a big fan of her dad's. I'm a big fan of that era of cinema. And totally different voices. And I do think Sofia is a more secure filmmaker, I'll be honest with you, despite the fact that Coppola is a legend. Francis is a legend. Sofia I think she's very secure with her choices. She knows what she's doing, yeah. And this, obviously, off your first feature, you get you get an Oscar, and the confidence skyrockets, right? She's made great films ever since then, and making really, really unique different choices like Marie Antoinette, and just like everything that she's done is really unique, and you can tell it's her. Can see it comes through. So my opinion is it's totally different. Her dad is obviously an inspiration, because I'm assuming that Sofia is not only going to look at him as her dad, but as a great filmmaker that she could just call. For instance, the whiskey commercial scene, the reason that's in this is because her dad shot a whiskey commercial with Akira Kurosawa of the same whiskey. and she saw this as a kid, she was there. So she's able to kind of replicate that moment a little bit. So I think they're super different. I don't think they emulate each other all that much. Sure, inspiration here and there, but she has her own voice for sure. For sure. What about you guys?
I think, for Francis Ford Coppola, his characters and the scenarios, I think, react in these very strong, vibrant ways that you would see in like epic stories. Like when you think of like The Godfather and how there's these epic situations that go on, and what epic life-changing action is a character going to do to like overcome that or to push the plot forward. Where when you see this, especially like on a directorial debut kind of way, you see that her tone's more focused on the personal and those kind of personal elements of the human condition. And I mean,
absolutely.
Even this, it was trying to tackle themes of loneliness and how on a very human level do you conquer that.
Not just that. What I will say, I'm sorry, your name? Ricky. Thank you so much for your question. And Ricky, to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, what I will say is that both of them love character over plot.
Yeah.
And that you have me when you do that. So they love character over plot. The Godfather is about Michael Corleone, a son who didn't want to go into the crime businesses and was adamantly against it, and then decides to turn around because his father's in a pretty tough spot. And not just that, but then even epics like Apocalypse Now, the grand scale of that film and the intimacy between some of these characters. So I think that's the common thread there. If they're going to do anything, they're going to dissect characters.
I just feel like with this, it's like the epic was made out of such a simple kind of situation where it's these two people meeting up and forming like that friendship. Yeah. But
and bravo to her, because she's the daughter of a rich Hollywood director. She could have very well made a bigger film, grander scale, and she decided to go guerrilla, intimate, indie. This was post-boom of the indie world, and she was right kind of thrown in the middle of that. We had this conversation a little bit about the Before trilogy, and how at the time, this era of cinema was, in my opinion, very bad. And then you have gems like this come out in 2003. So like it's that same era that was very bad, in my opinion. And she managed to make something really special that has stood the test of time. Yeah, for sure. We have another question. Thank you, Ricky, for your question. Give it up for Ricky. And for Jimmy.
Oh wait, Ricky, rating.
I wasn't here to watch it. I haven't actually.
You haven't seen the film at all.
What's that? He
Put it
gave it
back
a
on.
13 out of 10.
Let's bring it back.
Yeah, let's start it from the top so you get the flow.
No, please go home and watch it. It's on Amazon Prime apparently.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Thank
question.
you.
Appreciate it.
We had a question over here. I saw a hand.
So like I guess I've been thinking about like the comparison of like Francis Coppola, and I think there's like this like more thorough dynamic that he has with like his story plots that's just like super detailed and like let's get a backstory on like the Godfather. You know?
Yeah.
And I like to think about or like at least acknowledge in Lost in Translation like Sofia Coppola. There's so many like cutscenes.
Okay.
Where like I don't know if you guys noticed like that part where like they kiss goodnight and then you're like, oh shoot, he's leaving tomorrow. Like what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get that process of him getting to the hotel. And
Right.
And
That's what you're saying.
Next morning.
That's what you're saying. Where Francis is building a world and really setting the scene. Sophia's getting to the point a little faster and stylistically for
I
sure.
think adding like that distance, which I thought was like
Sure.
because there's like that longing.
Oh yeah,
the
absolutely.
whole time.
Absolutely. And to be fair, this is, I mean, Francis isn't, the relationships in Francis's films, with the exception of maybe The Outsiders, this isn't aiming to explore a dynamic between two people necessarily, right? Even Diane Keaton's and the character in The Godfather is a plot device sometimes. But this is exploring two people and their longing for something more than what they currently have. So it's so necessary and it's so intentional.
Yeah.
It's so intentional. So yeah, I couldn't agree more for sure. He's the epic, set a backdrop, explore the world, set a theme. And she's like, well, I kind of just want to see what happens between these two. A lot of this was improvised, by the way. A lot of this film was improvised. Dialogue, especially.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so yeah.
It's
I see that.
Also, like, I really think it's so punchy having those spaces in between where nothing happens on screen, and it just gives you that brief moment to connect these dots. And when you do, I mean, like, kind of like when Bill Murray wakes up the next day and that girl's like singing in his room, and instantly the whole audience just kind of gasp and they're just like taking that in. But it's so much punchier because they didn't give you all the little details. They let you kind of build like what happened, and you're almost surprised with him. And I think
I respect when a filmmaker does that. I
respect that somebody did that like on their first go. Sometimes that's something you have to build into or realize that less can be more. Yeah. And you know,
and just to acknowledge that the audience isn't stupid. You know, the audience can make their own conclusions, and when the filmmaker can do that, you welcome the audience into the world a little more. A big thing that they do with that too is kind of the confined space of the location, you know, and we know when we're back into this, we're back into the loneliness by being back into each other, you know, individually into their rooms and stuff like that. So yeah, she uses space really well, and she uses time and space really well. So that's awesome for sure.
Is there a reason why she used Tokyo for this one?
I think that directly comes from her experience. Like it happened to her in Japan. Yeah,
that's the one thing I noticed about this film is the Asian culture. It's so different, dude.
That's the thing. I mean, if you look at it, they followed an isolationist kind of world view where they wanted to separate themselves from other cultures and everything. And that's why I think there's an intrigue to the region, because it's just so different, because they developed their culture on their own. Yeah. And because of that, it's like anything that they try to latch onto, like when the characters talk to somebody even like in French or German, all that kind of stuff, they really can't connect. And there's this full gap. Even that scene when he's with the director and the director's giving him all these really unique phrases and mannerisms, and then it just like, oh, turn left, and and you have to think.
You said more.
But I mean, it's like in dialogue, in you know, what happens in the world, the way every room's constructed. Like there's just, it's constantly that being lost, and I think
that makes a lot of sense.
I think
isolation to explore that a little bit.
Yeah,
just loneliness, you know. Most people who go through the throes of depression.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it loneliness or depression?
It's both. I mean, it's both. They're directly correlated in this scenario because I can speak from that firsthand a little bit. Most people who go through depression will very adamantly admit that they feel very lonely in a crowded room, and this is not only that, but to add a layer on top of that, I know nobody. I can't understand anybody here. So just to add to the layers of loneliness, right? And what's funny is that both of them kind of did it to get away from their lives, and still didn't find anything that they were searching for, at least quite yet. So,
well, hear me out.
Yeah.
Do you think Scarlett Johansson's character was lonely, and since Bill had been, for so long doing the same thing, he's more into the depression?
I feel like
and that's where they both connect. Where it's like, I'm depressed. I don't want you to get depressed. So
I think.
Oh, no, go ahead, man.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I think it's also it's loneliness on both their sides, because even when Bill's talking about how he's married and he's been with somebody for like 25 years and has kids, but he's starting to feel like that person's okay without him being there. And then like the dialogue when you see that he calls home and they're like, oh yeah, the kids miss their father, but they're getting used to him not being here. And it's
a little
this,
backhand.
It's this loneliness that grows from like not being needed by somebody.
I also, you go through iterations of it, and I also think you never get over loneliness.
What do you mean?
Ever. I think you find different ways to cope with it, but I don't think you ever get over it.
That's true.
So it's like the law says, you get into a different mode of depression and loneliness, but this is what's special about and the likelihood of this, by the way, two Americans finding themselves in Japan and connect. And and on the surface you might think, okay, yeah, dude, they speak the same language, but they're going through the same thing, just in different areas, So that's really special.
I would just categorize it because I think like she was 17 years old, so I don't think she's at the point of depression. I don't know if that's...
No, but she's worried about it. She admits that she's I'm
that's
stuck.
What I'm saying.
I don't know what I'm doing here. And you very much see her cry in various scenes. Just random. It's not random. It's very, very well like, I'm lonely. Like, my husband's off all the time. And it also seems like this isn't the first time this happens. She left New York to go to LA.
True.
She's transplanted. She doesn't feel like she's at home. And then now, hey, we're going to another country for a while. So she's been going through this for a little while.
I also think it's kind of interesting that it played on those themes of while they're trying to figure things out and they're looking for people to help them through it. Like whenever they would phone home, literally, they were always like, oh, well, I'm kind of busy. Like everybody's in their own kind of rat race, or everybody's doing their own thing, and it really does put you in that loneliness that you got to figure it out.
I'm sorry, what your name?
Oh, Aaliyah.
Aaliyah. Thank you, Aaliyah, for that question and that perspective. Give it up for Aaliyah. Your rating?
So it's my first time watching it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I give it a 10 out of 10 because even the soundtrack was amazing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Wow, that's
3 10.
3 10. Wow, 11. I mean, awesome. Yeah, no. I mean, it's great perspective. Anybody else have anything? Yeah.
I was just wondering if there was ever any mention of how they make the Japanese people look. I mean, they made them look kind of silly.
Oh, that's interesting. Right. An American's viewpoint on that, right?
American's
like
yeah, that is kind of.
Like that that Johnny Carson of Tokyo. Or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I
you know what?
I didn't get offended by that.
You know what? Ultimately, it's drawn from reality too. They're kind of just pointing a camera at it to a certain degree. So I think as long as the Japanese are okay with publicly doing that kind of stuff, then it's probably you know. I mean, it's.
You know what? I was hearing a conversation when somebody was dissecting the character scene in Licorice Pizza. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen Licorice Pizza, there's moments where there's a Japanese or Chinese restaurant owner, Chinese restaurant. And he has. Well, I'm glad that you know.
Not he. His counterpart. He's not Japanese.
No. But he owns the restaurant. Right. He's American, and his wife is Asian, and they have these moments where they're talking to both of them.
They're meant to be comedic.
Yeah, they're talking to both of them. But then what happens is that they ask like, oh, what do you think of the menu and all that kind of stuff, and then she'll say this big long sentence, and then it's like, oh yeah, she doesn't like it or something like that. But then later on in the film, you realize that he doesn't speak Japanese, so he's pulling it out of wherever. And somebody was asking, is that rude, and is that making fun of the culture, or is there something more behind it? And the kind of consensus they came to was that if we're not allowed to laugh at the fact that genuinely, if I went to a different part of the world, I'm not going to be able to understand them. They're not going to be able to understand me. And we're going to play this little game of like, I'll say the word that you think I said, and you say the word that I think I said. And we can laugh on a human level. We can laugh on a human level.
Right? Like
yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And
I also think that the other side of that coin is foreign cinema, like, people will make fun of Americans very much so. I mean, the rest of the world doesn't like us. They like our films, they like our music, they like our pop culture, but they don't like us. They think we're fat, lazy, whatever, right?
I mean, we are.
I mean, we are, but
Yeah, they got a point.
we over whatever. But what I mean to say by that is, it kind of happens, like, especially because you don't understand the culture, and I think out of that confusion, you start to cope with it in different ways, and one way is to kind of laugh, not at it, but laugh at the fact that you don't know what you just got yourself thrown into.
There we go.
And the point of view there is we're in Bill Murray's character's perspective. We're thrown into this world that we don't know if to laugh, cry, be worried, get thrown to this side or that side.
Even when he makes like the little like heart gesture, and it's kind of like you see him doing it like, is that the right thing?
Am I gonna get sued over this? You know what? I will say, this is my last thing I'll say about that. How come we don't feel, the question I'd ask myself at that point is, how come we don't feel silly, or we don't feel like the karaoke scenes are being made fun of? Because that's intimate. That feels like the characters are included in this process. They're being honest. They're being vulnerable, and vulnerable in the way that they can open up to the people around them. I mean, granted, those individuals are friends of Scarlett Johansson's character, right? So there's a little familiarity there. But it's still one of those things where we, as the audience consuming this, we feel okay in those scenes. We feel, they're having a good time. I'm enjoying seeing it.
It's like we feel safer, right?
Yeah, we feel safe, but we don't feel embarrassed. In the Carson, quote unquote, scene, we feel embarrassed. We feel embarrassed for him. We feel nervous for him. So I also think she did very well in separating the two and saying, like, when he's in his element, and what's more is when he's with her, he's okay. He's in a safer space.
One more thing I'll add into that is or what?
No, we have a question, but finish your thought.
Okay. Last thing I'll add into that is that I think that there was a lot of intentionality in like the type of locations they went to, or the type of activities they were doing. Like, there was something that was very grounding to all the characters when they talked about things like music, or they talked about things like art and all that. And it's interesting to see that those are the themes that they felt comfortable being around, because it kind of grounded them. Like when they were in the
all of that is universal.
Yeah, those are universal things. Like, you would see them playing a lot of music games there at that arcade. But it's something that we can all look at that and understand it. We can understand music and beats and all that kind of stuff. So I think
that's great. Thank you for that question. Awesome. We had a question.
Oh yeah. So I was listening to. I loved your question. So I just wanted to kind of opine with my 2 cents.
Yes, please. And this is, I know we don't have a camera on Rebecca, but she's the co-owner of this establishment. So thank you. You can see me. I'm enjoying Café La Olla. Come down to get your Café La Olla.
So I just wanted to say, like in arts, I think in the 17th, 13th century, Westerners turned their gaze to Japan and have this
this Oriental obsession,
Orientalism
right?
or Japonisme is what it's called, and I feel like this is as an extension of that Western gaze towards Japan. So we talked about that male gaze, but it's also observing the male gaze, but also how the West perceives non-Western cultures. And I think there's a very interesting dynamic between Japan and the United States, especially after World War II. Definitely Japan picked the wrong side, right? and they suffered an unfortunate, the only nuclear bombing.
Right.
And the world was at the hands of the U.S.
Sure.
So after that, there was this very different cultural shift in Japan where
definitely.
things became cute. You have anime, you have Hello Kitty because it's this kind
That is true.
you have the video game representation here, the karaoke,
Right.
and so there's this kind of shift in attitude and like this reciprocal relationship.
I love that. You know, I'll add to that, Rebecca. I think that the thing to note there too is, for instance, the U.S. In the 1920s, the Great Depression, we went the opposite route. When we went into the war, we forgot about cinema. Film was suffering. Music was suffering. We weren't paying attention to anything that was escapism because we were exposed, especially soldiers. They weren't reading comic books anymore. They weren't participating in all of this in you know, art in the arts. Because of the realism behind the war. And in this scenario, now we're post-war, the escapism is needed there.
During the war, you do have film, but it's propaganda.
Sure,
It's propaganda
absolutely.
For all of the participating countries, right? To get people involved in the army, to get women to go to the factories. So you have all of those dynamics. So I just think it's very interesting that you brought that up because it is like very tenuous relationship of what we see, that it is part making fun of the culture, but it's also a fetishization of the culture as well.
Absolutely.
And that's we see
we see the exotic aspects of I'm in Japan and I'm exploring this or that.
The strip joints, right? So there's a lot of complicated things there, but I thought it was kind of a balanced view, but still very kind of leaning towards the
making fun of aspect, you think? Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair. I mean, and then by the way, in the early 2000s, you know, people weren't as sensitive. And we, you know, they could get away with that a little bit. And I said vice versa. I think on the other side of the coin too, we get foreign films that are making fun of us. And so I think it definitely exists, and it's an interesting dynamic. We see the beauty and where they're at, right? As viewers, we think this is great. We want to go there. But at the same time, we all agree, maybe not Delau, because I know how he is. We all agree with Bill Murray on, like, why do I want to go to a restaurant to cook my own food? Like when it gets to that.
Why?
It's fun. If you go to Melting Pot and you get a little pot and you know, Adam knows, you know, you dip it in and then food comes out 2 minutes later. It's crazy. You should try it.
You can do it. My microwave at home does the same thing. You'd be surprised. No, but I think it's a little bit of both. I agree with Rebecca. I think that's awesome perspective. So Rebecca, thank you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Did you give us a rating?
Rating.
And
Was this your first time watching? I doubt it. You're a cinephile. You love
and it could be like 0.5, whatever.
I like 6.5.
6.5. Wow. Our first slow rating. Wow. Cool. Okay.
Oh, man.
She explained why.
I somehow feel bad
She's close to my rating too, so.
because I liked it.
Why so low?
Why so low? Well, I think we'd have to.
We
get
will
it.
never know.
She stepped out of the room. Yeah, no.
Low.
Exactly. No, that's great. It's great perspective. It's true.
Yeah, beautiful.
Us coming into that. So, any other questions? Anybody else? Give it a take. This is
Any
great.
other sixes over there? Like
We're gonna
sixes?
start the podcast with this more often because this is great.
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Come on. Yeah. Our first
Please,
microphone participant. Thank you.
Can we get your name, microphone
what's your
participant?
Hello,
Wow.
Hello.
my name is Brianna.
Brianna. Thank you so
I
much.
am 23 years old, going on my quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
So
You can never start too early.
I related a lot to Scarlett Johansson in this movie, where she felt mostly alone, even with the company, but it wasn't the type of company she wanted. She's a philosophy major. She's always thinking, always wanting deeper conversations and connections.
Yeah.
That's not the point of this.
No, it is. No, please. Yeah, this is very
I
much
had a
the
couple
point.
of questions regarding like your directing perspective and your actor perspective, though.
Yeah.
I got like 4 questions.
Not me.
Not you. You sit over
There's no cinematography perspective needed today.
today.
No, you're good. My first question is, what other movies could you compare that kind of give the same message, but it is directed differently? It is directed differently.
Oh, how much time do you have? I give you a whole list. Of oh yeah, you're right. The Before trilogy is
The Before
definitely in that
trilogy for
realm.
sure.
Or a similar message.
Have you seen
Similar
Before
message.
Trilogy?
Yeah.
Before what?
The Before trilogy?
So
No.
before sunrise, before
Oh.
sunset, before it's a Richard Linklater
No.
trilogy. It's
You
terrific.
must.
Wonderful
You
film.
must see
Okay.
it. But they, you know what they do is they're not as poetic with the pauses, with the limited interactions, with the limited dialogue. They go straight. It's 2 hours of two people talking and asking these philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Well, 2 hours per film. So three of these films. Sorry, Austin. No, trust me. These are my favorite types of films. These kind of introspective explorations of loneliness. So there's quite a few. I definitely put.
The one we just saw, the Japanese one or the Korean one?
In the Mood for Love.
In the Mood for Love.
Absolutely in the Mood for Love.
It's just random.
And the same kind of vein, right? They both have spouses. They both have. They both feel lonely at home. They both have one's significant other is always on business trips.
Yeah.
It's kind of I'm going to call Sofia. She may have stolen
She
the
might
plot
have,
from this.
bit a
No,
little
but
bit.
she's definitely inspired, right? From
Have you seen that
part.
one?
Which one?
In the Mood for Love. It's
No, but I'm writing it down.
Oh yes,
We'll
it's
give you a
awesome.
ton of
Terrific picture.
recommendations.
Yeah, we'll give it. Trust me.
Also, I'm pretty sure it had to be inspired from there's a opera film, Umbrellas of Cherbourg,
Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
and we reference it all the time.
Yeah.
It's a French
film.
It's a French
musical.
opera, but there's this idea of not a forbidden love at the end, but just this love that's not gonna ever work out,
Yeah.
and you have to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
And at least that ending is directly inspired from that, because in that film, they give this look at the end, and it's unspoken, but it leaves the audience kind of feeling like this was never intended to fully work out, you know. So yeah, that had to.
And they're very
influence it.
stylistically they're very the recommendations like the ones we're telling you are very different films. And the
With
Mood for
different
Love is
messages.
probably the closest one to this, but stylistically, yeah, definitely not as happy. Definitely not as much closure as we get. We don't even get a kiss in that movie, do we? I think spoilers. No, but it's terrific. But definitely different approaches to storytelling. I mean, and some of my I can very much tell you. I'm pulling out my list. I promise you. But no, just to give you some perspective on the fact that like we were joking around because the film that Amazon recommended right after this is my favorite film of all time. It's Good Will Hunting.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen Good Will Hunting, but it's
Not yet.
It's definitely more in the sense of I'm going the wrong route because I've never had guidance in my life to pursue something, but I'm also an orphan that's lonely, and the only kind of connections I do have are with my closest friends that my knucklehead friends that I grew up with, until somebody else sees something in me. And there is an aspect of that. I can't be with you because I'm almost not worthy of you. In the relationship dynamic of those two characters in that film as well. The romantic interest, the love interest of that character. So
You know what's another surprising one that I just
Yeah.
thought of? Harold and Maude. But I mean,
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially
How?
because the reason that's my favorite film.
Yeah,
You don't have to see that one.
Wow.
that's
No,
true.
no,
I still wrote it down.
No, Harold and Maude takes place with this young character. I think he just turns 21,
Uh-huh.
and he comes from a very affluent family.
And his name is Harold.
Yeah. And her name was Maude. But it explores this idea of being lost in what you're supposed to be doing, especially that kind of turning of age. 21, being
Where
at this
he's super-
start
yeah,
of life, and
She's like, dude,
She's
I'm
done.
at this age. I'm almost out of here.
Ooh, okay.
Dude, live your life. You're not gonna mess.
and I think
that's a good point.
especially
No
in this
spoilers,
kind of age disparity, you can see that, and
Yeah,
you can see
absolutely.
having to use somebody else to find purpose in yourself.
There we
And
go.
I'll give you two more from my list that I think are like really, really directly are affected by something like this. One of them is Cafe Society. It's a Woody Allen picture, and those themes are very much explored. And it's a lot of people who are already in relationships or want to be in relationships with the certain people that they're not getting paid attention to, and still going through that quarter life, midlife crisis, depending on which character you're following. So Cafe Society for sure. And the last one I'll recommend is one of my favorite films of all time that
Finding Nemo. What the
Finding Nemo. No, nobody's ever heard of it. Nobody cares for it. It's a film called Liberal Arts, written and directed by Josh Radnor. Have you?
Yeah, well, I saw the trailer.
Dear Barbara. Liberal Arts. It's written and directed by Josh Radnor. Josh Radnor was the lead in How I Met Your Mother. He's in the show the Nazi Hunters. I think it's called Hunters.
Oh, with Al Pacino.
With Al Pacino, he's one of the characters in that as well. Great writer director, and the theme in that is literally a professor goes back to his alma mater, meets a student, a college student, and they fall in love. But it's that I'm twice your age and depressed and recently divorced, and she's very much of the like, but you're so mature and I love who you are and I want to be that. And by connecting with you, I feel like it's somehow going to transfer into me. But she has a lot to learn in life, and he doesn't want to take away that innocence from her either. He doesn't want to take away, like, you don't want to be with me because you'll catch up to this, and I don't want you to catch up to this. I want you to like enjoy your life. So very similar themes, very differently directed, but I have to do my research. But it was definitely inspired by something like this, you know. So definitely liberal arts. Check out liberal arts. So.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'll stop there because we can go all night.
Yes.
I promise you. But on the acting perspective, and I don't know if you guys have more on
I don't have any
offer
more
on that.
perspectives. I'm done. I'm tapped for
Good.
tonight.
And
No,
we're
I'm
done with
joking.
the podcast.
On to
But
the next question.
okay,
Yes.
sorry. We're
No, go for it.
no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You said you had a few questions. So.
Yeah. What other romantic comedy movies at the time were out when Lost in Translation was released?
The Before trilogy.
The-
Yeah, directly.
I know nothing about this.
No, the Before trilogy. We
yeah.
say that because
Romantic
I really,
comedy.
What?
I didn't laugh once during that movie.
Yeah.
I cried.
No, but it was directly in that 03. Well, the first one was in 99, I believe, 98.
94.
94, and then we get into 01, 02, I think, and that's
03.
03. And then we get into 2014.
No, we get in 2013. It's 9 years apart.
You're right. Anyways,
9 years apart.
and the one that we always talk about,
Yeah.
there's the middle film, which came out in this era, 03. And
Yeah.
and we know exactly what's wrong with this era, I think, or we always try and dissect it. We were talking about even the shots in this, right?
Yeah.
You and I were talking about, like, what is it? What's the filter that they're using? And I think I just told him, I was like, you know what I think is happening, what I'm starting to discover, is they were shooting everything so beautifully with no intention.
Wow.
And that era was just pretty shots, no intentionality. So just an example, but I think that's definitely
It's also because like things became more accessible. It's the digital age we're jumping into from
yeah,
cameras and all
absolutely.
that.
By the way, Francis Ford Coppola told Sofia, you should do this in digital. You should do this in video. It's hot right now. It's going to be cheap to shoot. And she said no. She's like, I think film is more romantic, so I'm going to do film. So
This one
kudos
was
to
film?
her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was shot on film. But romantic comedies of that era
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
were bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we get into the
Is he
McConaughey
right?
era of romantic
Breath of
comedies,
Fresh
Jennifer
Air.
Garner. I mean, all of these.
51st
How
Dates.
did, I think that came. Yeah, I
It
think
came
that
after, I thought.
in that era.
2005.
Yeah, this was more like, I think, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Girlfriend's
Yeah.
Past, Ghosty, whatever bad
Past
romantic comedy
Yeah,
you can think of
It
came out in that era.
2003.
Yeah, they were.
So comparably, yeah, but yeah.
Definitely. And for you, in a movie where not much is said, how do you convey longing and loneliness? Is
Oh,
it
that's a great
difficult to
question.
create a melancholic emotion when acting?
Well, I think Bill Berry was really good with this one because he's been doing this for so long. So I guess with him, just certain gestures and eye, movements, you could just tell by his performance that he's been through that,
Mm.
So you could just tell, like, he's been through depression, I guarantee you. So you could tell, like, he portrays it pretty well. And then when Scarlett Johansson, you could tell, like, she's 17, she doesn't know much. And, you could just, I don't know, just...
Is it more that you tap into that kind of vulnerability? Is that
Like
what it
from
is?
your
yeah, I'm trying to think, like,
experiences?
Scarlett, because I can't really, like...
You know what my take is on that? Honestly, and it said that it's both base levels, so if I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah.
I think that you find out why she got cast because of what she could do. With the cracks in her voice, with the ability to seem vulnerable in certain spots. And what I think is even more interesting is just the way we're strangers to their characters, they're strangers to each other. So she has to convince him and us that she has a liking. She has taken a liking. She's miserable in her own relationship. So that's not pointing out any specific body language, but I think I also just think that she was just the perfect person to cast for something like this.
With Bill, I guess it's one of those where... How can I say it?
it's a super autobiographical for Bill, like you said. But everybody's wanting him to quote Ghostbusters. Everybody's wanting him to quote,
Exactly. You said like if there's not a lot of words, so I guess his comedic relief really does a lot here. Like even if it's 3 or 4 words,
that defense mechanism,
making John, laugh and stuff like that. So
that's good. That's good.
It's a perfect role for him, I think.
Definitely.
Great.
I remember asking you, how would you respond during the, I think it was the commercial scene or the photography scene, and
I think at this stage I would have freaked out on the guy, but he's already experienced, so he knew how to keep.
Yeah, he's getting a $2 million paycheck, so that
exactly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Do, any other questions?
Can I record a video of us saying it's Santori time?
Oh yeah!
Wow.
That's awesome. Sure.
It'd be fun.
Is this us over here? Does the audience have to just over here?
We'll do
Okay.
it.
No, whatever you're going for. All right.
Woo!
It's Santori
Santori time! Wow!
Cheers.
I need you to say it a little.
Oh wait, do you have a rating on the film?
Oh. It was my first time watching it. I give it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Wow.
First time. Lots of that. Thank you so much. Your name? Brianna. Thanks so much. We have a question. We have another question. You want to come up to the microphone?
You have to.
I'm okay.
Baby.
How would you have rewritten the film? Like the rewritten endings?
Would you have rewritten the film?
Who writes a lot of romantic?
No, I think that ending was perfect.
Really?
I really do.
You wouldn't have rewritten it?
No, and you know what? We haven't talked about this yet. I know you're looking at me, Julia. I know you're looking at me because nobody here in this room has talked about The Whisper.
Yeah,
which is a big topic of conversation amongst the fans.
I mean, it's pretty obvious what he said, right?
No, it's in fact nobody knew what he
said. They both smiled and they're like, all right.
No, okay, wait. Let's go there.
They're gonna come back. He's gonna come back.
Nobody officially knew until 2008. Okay, because Sofia and Bill let it out.
Wait, are you gonna say what it is, or do you want us to say?
I am gonna say what it is, but I also know you touched on something very important. This has a lot to do with how you analyze film. What do you think? It was obvious, quote unquote. I'm using your word.
Comes to like little gestures. That's
what was it? What do you think they said, based on their body language?
I think Bill told him, I got to take care of whatever I got to take care of, and I'll be back.
Hey. Give me 5 minutes. That's what you think Bill said?
Is that
because he still has a kid.
Is that him saying, I gotta go, I'm gonna end my relationship and I'm gonna be back?
Yeah.
That you think that's what he's saying?
Yeah. Why would you smile?
Oh.
I like how it just ended like that.
I
don't want too much.
And it's funny because I didn't find that to be as big, because I think that's so direct. That's so direct, being
I agree.
I will come back and I will
the fact
grow
that
something with you. Like to me that's so punchy, where I felt it was more subtle in the sense of like it was answering the question that she needed to hear on her own. So it's
to
more
kick off the rest of her life.
What do you mean?
Like instead of saying that, I think what was important was saying that like
could he possibly say just for
that you were gonna do such great things moving forward. And
what did he say when they were laying in the bed?
You're gonna be okay.
Well, it's something in that vein, but I think the exact words were, "You're not hopeless.
You're not hopeless. Yeah.
You're not hopeless." That is more important than like, "I'll be back." Let me tell you why.
Her life.
Some films, Ash, do that very well. You know which film does that very well? Is the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise. Because they
watch it.
Okay, then I won't spoil it. But
you saw the first one.
Well, I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But the end of that film is a promise. That's all I'll say. And Before Sunrise, the first one.
First one.
And that promise drives the narrative forward, and that's why we have sequels. But
do you think that promise is like understood by anybody other than filmmakers?
No, yeah, absolutely. I do. But what I mean by that too is drawing it back to The Whisper here. What happens is the way people started finding out is fans started getting curious. What the hell did they say to each other? And they started literally getting the sound and raising the gain and raising the gain so that they could hear it. And then once fans started seeing like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what they're saying. Sophia and everybody else confirmed it.
What do you think anyone other than filmmakers can catch that?
Yeah,
it's one of those where
I think just anybody who's curious, who loves this film and wants to know.
Because I don't think when we watch films like this, we're thinking about like how they shot it.
Right, not necessarily.
Yeah, we're not directly.
You guys watch films like filmmakers.
Not necessarily,
No, but-
because we're also interested in
the
human
You're right.
experience.
You're right. We're interested in the human. We're interested in the human
Really
experience. So
filmmaker.
I think I think Dalal and I will help each other out here and say that like we care more initially. We care more about how this story is being told and how it affects the human condition more than how the shots were played out. I think we talked about one technical moment in the entire film.
Yeah.
And by the way, you had never seen it before, right?
But
Yeah.
I feel like filmmakers have a way of like understanding things that we don't understand.
But I think
let
filmmakers
me add this in.
have a more developed palate, not because they're snotty, but because they watch more films.
I'll say this.
They know how the sausage is made. So
Let me say this. I think that there's two perspectives. The first perspective, which we all have, which the general audience perspective is what's the story about and how do we connect with it on a human level.
Absolutely.
The filmmaker side of looking at a film is just how did they do it, you
I
know?
feel like it's a lot more than just technical aspects. I feel like you guys have an upper hand when it comes
No, but
to
I mean-
viewing films.
But we all saw that there was a whisper. We all couldn't understand it. There
Yeah.
was no subtitles. So we all experienced that together. I mean, sure, there's like, oh, technically, you know, like how did they try to accomplish it? How was the most effective?
I feel like filmmakers have an upper hand in the way they understand films.
But even what we're
not
saying,
all the time.
we didn't
you know
see
why?
it.
Because it's so subjective.
Yeah.
It's no matter how developed you think you are in your film watching ability, you're gonna think one thing, he's gonna think one thing, he's gonna think one thing. So it doesn't matter. We can still enjoy the movie going experience the same as anybody else because we're humans. At the bottom line, unless we're watching whatever, Marvel film or whatever, but if we're looking even those, I mean, tackle the human experience in some level. So I think we're all watching it with the same perspective, especially if you're all watching it for the first time, So
But you don't think you guys have an upper hand in the way?
no, I think
I agree with you. They just don't understand that because this is what they do.
No,
This is what they do.
Sandra feels the same way. My wife feels the same way. Like she considers herself a quote unquote general audience
The way
member.
Elias views scripts is the way that it's just different than I view scripts.
Yeah.
It's just the way that he's been brought up to view those scripts.
I think that's more of a human thing than it is a filmmaking thing. I think the way his upbringing and your upbringing may be different, and so he's going to have a unique
But
perspective.
He gets it.
So what did they say? What did they say?
No, it's great. Thank you for that, Ash. It's great. It's your perspective. But so there's three things that people have kind of conjoined to say like what they think it was.
Okay, so
But
it's three different things
no.
in one.
One what they think it was, and the one that was more directly confirmed.
So it's
the
not
last one.
officially,
It's the
just
It's
directly.
the last. Well, because you don't want to ruin the magic either. Like if I were Sophia, I wasn't going to tell you.
Yeah, that's what I'm
was
saying.
it.
I wanna
She
keep
was
it like
like,
that.
sure, like,
All right, let's
maybe.
see. Okay.
So the three are, and this first one it relates directly to what you're saying.
The obvious one.
Right. I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us. Okay. This was Bill. That was his.
That's
Theory.
it.
Theory one. I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us. Okay. 2, you'll always be an independent woman. Don't part mad. Tell the truth. Okay. And the third and final one, which is the one that we can confirm, is when John is waiting on the next business trip, go up to that man and tell him the truth. Okay.
Oh, I kind of like that one. Okay.
That's the one. And then other
I gotta
people
go fuck.
will dissect the audio even more and say that they can confirm that the first 2 words are promise me. Promise me you'll go up to that man and tell him the truth. So it's all about that. Because he knows that if she's broken from that toxic relationship, she can continue her life. She can restart her life, quote unquote, and get unstuck.
I'm gonna stick with mine, dude. Because it's not officially confirmed. It's just
Oh my
directly,
Yeah.
they pulled up the volume on it. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So we're coming into about an hour into this podcast.
Yeah.
What are your ratings? What do you think, buddy?
It's Bill freaking Murray, dude.
What's your rating, pal?
Scarlett Johansson really showed me a lot in this one, so I can't give it a 6.5, but it's okay. I'll give it a solid 9.2.
9.2.
9.2.
Yeah, I think the chemistry between them is just the age difference, and then the way they just clicked. It's
Sure,
and it wasn't weird.
And it wasn't creepy.
Weird,
it
dude.
wasn't this thing.
Even
Yeah.
when you see him like laying in bed and stuff, like obviously you're gonna think like, is he gonna make a move or anything? You just didn't feel it. You were just like,
And by the way, the kiss was improvised too. It wasn't in the script.
oh,
Yeah.
it was. You could kind of tell like
both of them kind of
Yeah,
on the
kinda
spot
like-
were like, let's just go for it. So
Really, that's cool.
so even that wasn't gonna happen. No confirmation of any type of romantic link per se.
See, I like those
Why
type
do
of
you think
directors,
that
man.
is?
If if it feels right,
Yeah.
leave it.
So what was? I'm sorry. What was
Why
that?
do you think that is? Why do you think they never kissed in the film?
Because that's almost we talk about this in our In a Mood for Love episode, where if you very very carefully do something like this and you do it the right way, it's more romantic not
Yeah.
to see it.
I agree.
More romantic not to see
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Because that's the imagination. You know, that's the
Yeah. Leave it up to
It's
you
the
to
tension.
determine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your rating?
My rating?
Mr. Toto.
And don't sugarcoat it that long.
Are you seeing the
Be
range
real.
Yeah, man. You
Come
tend
down?
You tend to.
in
Be
Africa?
real.
Do I get to say something?
Rating pal.
Rating.
And not just for the cinematography, just for overall.
Look at the film as is, not necessarily.
I'm with you, buddy.
Maybe I'm
Okay.
trying.
Rating.
And then.
Shut up. 8.6.
8.6.
I gotta follow up. Why so low?
Huh?
Why so low?
I don't know. Carlos, rating.
He asked you a question.
Do you want me to answer it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Why so low?
Yeah, I just want to say obviously a
No,
9 and
no.
up.
Okay.
I don't know that that's low.
The
That's not
first-
What
6.5.
would you add to it?
What would I add to it?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Make it a 10 out of 10.
I feel like with this film, it captured the elements of loneliness and it had a lot going for the performances. I will say that to give it to give it the rating of like a 10, it all has to come from the execution being hyper intentional, and I think that the improvisation.
You can't blame her.
I think
Yeah.
the improvisation adds so much texture to the film. It adds so much character. It really speaks to the abilities of both actors in delivering a scene when they're just not given too much to work
And
with.
the authenticity, right? They're meant
Yes,
to be strangers.
absolutely.
You're not meant to know what their chemistry is, So
But
they're meant to
comparing
find
it,
that chemistry.
comparing
amongst,
it to something that I have given a 10, like the Before series, it's amazing.
Did you give the Before trilogy?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But giving it that a 10 is the fact that when you learn that each of those lines, though they felt so natural, they felt so authentic, and you really connected with those moments, they were completely on book.
That's a good point.
They were
That's a really good point.
And when it comes to the shots, when it comes to everything, I think
But the latter two films, the actors themselves had a lot to say about what goes in the script and how.
But it all goes down to the idea that I give her an insane amount of credit
her
for
being
putting
Sofia Coppola.
Sofia Coppola in directing the performances and directing the scenes and the intentionality in the shots.
First time out.
First time out, but I can definitely say that there were shots at the beginning that felt like, okay, is there intention behind this, or are you playing too much into
I
it?
hear you.
And at times I really appreciated the shots when it's just looking at like Japan as a whole, and especially coming from like you're lost in the sauce.
Listen, for instance, the opening scene, and I'm sorry that I can't point out exactly what scene in the hotel it's coming from. The opening scene, the underwear scene, is directly inspired by a piece of art. And I forget the name. The artist's name. His name's John something. The painting is in the film, by the way, in the hotel lobby, but it's directly inspired by a work of art. Sofia Coppola's shots were a previous trip to Japan, maybe the one where she had this kind of marriage fall apart. She took pictures of these beautiful locations and beautiful kind of setups. And then literally those pictures were the inspiration. Literally like, I want to put the two actors here. This is the photo this is the backdrop. So she just repainted her experience.
Let me
to a
add
certain
one
degree.
thing before we run out of time on a
Yeah.
cinematography perspective.
Yeah.
I remember midway through the film, I asked you about the aspect ratio because
Right.
it felt
It wasn't quite one thing, but
no.
yeah.
It felt 4x6, which 4x6.
Oh,
No. Like, hear me out.
No.
Okay. This is my time to talk. I get turns.
You do.
No. It felt 4x6 because 4x6 is the standard ratio for like a photograph, and if you look at a lot of these shots and compositions, because of the way they were arranged
Well,
and spacing
that's
and
a
everything,
shame. I mean-
like I see this a lot whenever I dive
3 by
into my
5.
Huh?
3 by 5, but 4 by 6.
3x5 is a print. 4x6 the aspect
16
ratio.
by 9, bro.
Anyway, we're saying numbers all to say that like when you look at a lot of these, they feel like a photograph. They do feel like that kind of like,
Oh,
especially
yeah,
like the
yeah.
golf course where
You made a
there's this-
comment during the film. You made a
Cool.
comment during the film that said, I made a cheeky comment of like we were pointing out like there's a poster shot, you know, the Leo moment.
Yeah.
But he was saying, dude, every one of these shots could be the poster shot. Like every single one of these frames could be a poster shot.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, and a part of it goes into the idea that like that era in filmmaking, you're having a lot of very beautiful shots without a lot of intentionality, but also in like photographs, like when you go to these places,
that's a good point. It's verite.
I like kind of relating it back. I remember when me and my family got the opportunity to take a trip to like Spain, me and my mom had this odd conversation where we both bought cameras right before we went because we were like, we want to take pictures. And on the first day we were there,
and you couldn't share your camera?
No. And the first day we were there is we burned through the camera in like an hour. And like the battery and the storage and everything. And then it was funny because after we did that, we had this conversation of like, is this a picture-worthy moment? And it's because when you're first seeing something like that, especially like a new culture, everything is picturesque because you're seeing this at a fresh view. You're getting such a fresh take on every moment. So even like the golf course shot, a cinematographer or somebody who's experienced in like that landscape and to film it, they could have said, this golf course isn't the best place to see like Mount Fuji. I mean, there's more iconic spots. There's more places to play around. And this was just like, it doesn't really like this is the fresh eyes. This is the tourist going in and seeing that moment where you're like, wow, it's amazing that there's this natural frame and all that.
But then there's also moments where I think I'd go the opposite. It's showing the unglamorous side of what they're experiencing. So there's like random telephone poles or random lighting fixtures of the city that block Mount Fuji or that blocks or anything.
But that's like when you go on
that's the reality.
Thing, yeah, that's the reality. But
it's not the postcard
what you see.
Picture.
And that's why I felt like every moment that you look through the film, it feels like a postcard or it feels like that photo you took and stuff like that. And it's not the most cinematic, but it's the most authentic to what you're experiencing with fresh eyes for the first time.
So 8.6 for that.
8.6.
Kind of reasons.
Probably.
I think there was.
I think they did it on purpose just to relate to her own personal experience because this was very autobiographical. But
and by the same token, even if something that you write that you make is autobiographical, doesn't mean that you directly want people to connect with it. You want people to experience it too. So, so her point of view, Scarlett's point of view, is the strongest. Like it is the strongest because
I agree.
It's the most personal.
And for you, what's the rating?
I'll give mine after Austin gives us his.
Do you want mine or the interns first?
Oh yeah, Miguel and or Austin ratings.
I give it a 9.6.
9.6, man, awesome. Do you want to elaborate on that?
The intern can elaborate.
All right, fair.
I'll let him elaborate.
9.6. And I happen to know that Miguel is very, very much in love with like Wong Kar-wai cinema as well. So like Chungking Express. And I think you could see some correlation there, right, Miguel? The Chungking Express and The Mood for Love. Like, I get it. Beautiful. I get it. Beautiful.
Good job, sir.
Austin?
I'd give it like a 9.2.
9.2.
And
care to elaborate?
My only gripe with the film is I feel like...
Foot shot?
Well, besides the feet stuff.
Foot shot.
He tells me in the middle of the film. It is. When they're outside the hotel, the fire alarm goes off. And then we cut to him in the slippers and his toes sticking out. That there's no context to it. And we started trying to say, well, what was it? There was.
I think there's a lot of context.
What is the context of him in his hotel?
We don't need it.
Cutting.
We don't need it. I agree.
Cutting to the shot for 2 seconds and then cutting back to their
Toes
profiles.
are weird.
What was it for?
Maybe she was trying to get Tarantino's attention. Who knows?
No. The way I viewed the film, at least my personal perspective on the film, is that even though you could be completely lost in translation, wink. There's human
real credit.
No, there's human things we all go through, like there's music and there's food, and as something as human as like the fire alarm rings, it doesn't matter if you're a movie star or you're a nobody. Everybody comes out, everybody's just standing in their pajamas, and then when you look down, you're at your most vulnerable. That like, I didn't even have time to put on my shoes.
I told you something like that, right? I was like, I think this is a stretch, but I think it's just the fact that like he's almost naked and he's just walking out of this place. But I thought of it. Yeah, I think when I thought about that, I was like, maybe that's a stretch. But
I like.
But I feel like there were a lot of moments that justify it. But yeah, what was your rating?
I don't think it's a stretch at all.
You don't think what?
I don't think it's a stretch at all.
She's just supportive and she loves you.
I don't know. I would have stuck the shot there. I would have stayed on that shot if I wanted that to be the intention. That's just me. I would have stayed there for a little while longer.
You got what you needed to get.
Well,
It's posted on a big screen.
I have one more gripe with it. I feel like Scarlett Johansson's character kind of gets over him sleeping with somebody else kind of quick.
Yeah,
But what grounds does she have to stay on that? There's no romantic.
No, but it's not necessarily grounds.
No grounds.
She's allowed to be upset at that point, and she just goes through an awkward lunch, and then they're fine.
Because they can't. They have no
there's no commitment to each.
Yes, they have no commitment to. She has a commitment to another man she committed.
But they're already connected.
And
they're already connected.
And he went out with some other girl, so that connection's kind of like it's not that pure anymore.
That's the most special film. That's the most special moment of the entire film.
Purity. You're talking about
between them.
That's the most special moment in the entire film because that takes away his. Look, if he was fantasizing about anybody this entire trip, it was her, and he went and wasted it on the redhead singer of the club. That moment is massive because But by the same token, if they would have slept together, it's like we were talking about the liberal arts thing. If they would have slept together, he would have taken that from her.
I see what you're saying.
And it would have ruined the moment between them.
No.
It would have ruined that memory.
It's just one of those things where you're talking to a girl and there's nothing happening. But then you find out, oh wow, she's sleeping with somebody. There's just like, oh wow, okay, cool.
And then you go back to yourself when you're like, I'm not with her. I can't be mad.
For sure. That's why there's no grounds. But it's just that.
No, but the thing is,
the emotion.
The emotion. Yeah.
I feel like.
Gosh, so it's because me and you have been hurt.
Oh my god. No. I feel like there's an obvious emotional connection that's happening between them, and to me, I was wondering throughout the film, like, is this all building up to like? Them having sex and I guess kind of completing the affair, and that's where I was viewing it as, because once they do that, it's this big affair, and then it's this big affair, and then what do you side with? Are you siding with them both leaving this relationship?
It's the affair without the affair aspect.
Yeah.
Because if they were doing something, if they were having a legitimate sexual affair, I wouldn't have been as interested in this film.
It was so unique and so
I agree
interesting.
with you that it's just
But yes, that's fine. I mean, that's a good gripe to have. That's a good gripe to have. I mean, but you know why you have that gripe is because you care for these characters.
Okay.
So it did what it wanted to do. So cool. 9.2.
Yeah.
To round off.
9.6, 9.2.
I think we're about to hit we're getting close to the end of the episode.
Absolutely.
And
I'm not going to give my rating.
Oh,
yeah, perfect. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us on the podcast. No,
He's the most important one.
No, it's not. It's the least important one.
Oh, it's mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, please.
No, my rating's a little. What? Nothing. My rating's a little underwhelming. I as much as I love this film, I've been exposed to other cinema that did it better. And because of that, I would use Lost in Translation as a supplemental film to my references. So I've gone on record on this podcast saying that In the Mood for Love is the most romantic film I've ever seen, and they don't touch once, they don't kiss once, they don't. But the romantic aspect of all of this is much stronger. I felt the longing in the picture like that more than I did in this one. Granted, there's different themes. There's also the coming of age aspect of this film that's really special. Almost more special in certain areas, but I would give it a 9. I'd give it a flat 9. Really? I wouldn't go over that.
A strong 9.
because In the Mood for Love, for instance, just to go back to that, was my 10, and we very rarely give films a 10. But that specifically, it's just for that base reason, and it sounds like such a generic reason, but there's a few people that have done it better. There's a few people that made me feel stronger about this in this scenario, and I've seen this film probably 5 times at this point, and the more I watch it, the more I'm like, I think I told Austin, I was like, man, they should have done that fade a little slower there. I wanted to stay in that moment for a little. So I start getting these like...
Also, the seasoning of not only consuming other films that follow a similar theme, but seeing a director's stylings and all that. And I mean, sometimes I like this one.
Yeah.
I view so much merit in the originality and the intention and the way that they explored this theme of loneliness and connecting with a different character to understand themselves. I appreciate all of that so much. But I can also say that being her directorial debut shows it's it's a potential
substantially
thing. I felt
impressive.
like as opposed to seeing this as the peak of somebody's career, that they hit a very high marker. This is supposed to be
Here's
Sophia's.
Here's the thing, though.
you
Here's
know,
the thing.
start of something.
The unfortunate side of that, as much as I think Sofia Coppola is a great director, my favorite female film director, absolutely, she is. I don't think she's topped this. I don't think she's topped this picture. No, well, Greta Gerwig's great, but we're talking about Sofia. Like I don't think she's topped this film in her career. And by the way, she just did a film with Bill again called On the Rocks. That was
On the Rocks.
great, but it wasn't this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying she peaked. What I'm saying is
No, but I'm saying that like this shows the potential and the merit of her as a
Absolutely.
filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not going to say that I think that it's going to be like a final for her. And some of the films that we've seen, you know, there's more that they've explored and more that they've executed well. Like I talk about intentionality, and you talk about themes and how that plays out. You know?
And just by the way, the whole thematic aspect of let's be lonely together, I love, and I still just think that this was an amazing effort, and it's standing the test of time, like I've said. But I've seen it done better, and it would be unfair for me to give this film a 10 when the film I think did it better got a 10. You know what I mean? I think I'm trying to stay true to those ratings. So, but a 9 is very, very much fantastic.
It's
and I
higher
think
than
it's a terrific picture. It's a terrific picture.
It is.
But let me put it to you this way: as terrific as a picture as it is, on personal preference, it's not even in my top 30. This movie.
All right, man. You're
No,
But I
it
mean,
is.
you've also seen more.
Well, and it's yeah. You develop your likings based on the cinema that you try to expose yourself to, and let me put it to you this way: I think I favor the films that inspire this film more than I favor this film. You know what I'm saying? So I see the intentionality there. So a 9. This film gets a 9, and it gets a well-desered 9.
Miss Sofia Coppola. I do not agree with anything.
Are we at the time to do final thoughts?
I think we're at the time to do final thoughts. We've been keeping you guys here for too long, so thank you
Yes.
guys for sticking around. But any before we give our final thoughts, any final thoughts?
Did your ratings go up from hearing us?
Did they go
Oh,
down?
they go down.
Did it go
because we talk too much and you want to go home.
It went down.
The rating, your rating went
finish
down.
it.
Oh.
She didn't finish it.
I want to see what Carlos has seen.
My what?
Oh, like
I feel like-
It's 10.
Yeah.
Um.
I'll give you a different perspective.
By the way, on your first watch, and they can attest to this, the first time you see In the Mood for Love, you're not going to agree with me.
Okay.
And we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
want to
see.
see what Carlos has seen.
Anyways, any thoughts? Anything that you guys help us wrap up this episode?
Anything we missed from
You know, I do have a thought.
Please.
of course.
Martha, thank
When
you.
you look at it not as a younger person, but as an
Oh,
older person,
sure.
I think I understood what, and I forget the names, the male character.
Yeah.
That Bill, I felt that.
You know those names and we don't know those names. So we know the actors' names and you know the character names. You're an actress, of course.
But
You're
the
gonna
thing is,
yeah.
No, not. But I think I felt what he was feeling inside by how he handled this woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
He knew that she was
absolutely.
lonely, she
Mhm,
was suffering. He knew that he was feeling that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that because he was the adult
He's very
Oh,
respectful.
sure.
Yeah.
in that situation, he knew that it would not be right for him to mess up her life.
He's
or give her
forced to do the
hope
right
for
thing.
anything, even though I
'Cause-
think he did fall in love with her.
Yeah. Because it would have been easy for him, by the way, right? It would have been easy for him because he's rich, he's famous. He doesn't need to stay in a marriage that he's not happy in.
I also think that you can see how vulnerable Scarlett Johansson is
Yeah.
throughout
No,
the
but that's
film.
what I mean. I mean, it would have been easy for him to say, "Let's run away together."
Yeah.
It would have been so easy for him to do that, you know?
But
It'd be
you know
yeah.
what? He didn't.
Yeah, he didn't.
He did the right thing.
Absolutely.
The sure thing for both of them.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult thing to do.
And I couldn't agree more with you. And I love that you're saying that the perspective of being older, saying like I hate this and it sucks, but I got to do the right thing. Like that's something that we may not. And you were saying earlier, if I were the younger dude right now where I'm at, I would have punched this guy.
yeah.
Whatever.
No, and I
But-
think we see the perspective more of like Scarlet, and I mean, I think if I had seen this film a few years back, I would have been aligned with her identically. Where you're trying to find yourself,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
even though you're not in a different culture or you don't understand language, there is this kind of like lost feeling of like, what are you supposed to be doing? And even I love the scenes when she's going to temples and she's like, I went there and I saw people chanting and praying and I didn't feel it. Yeah. And it's this, you're looking for answers
and being disillusioned while exploring these answers too. And what I'll say too with that is, this is why the kiss scene at the end is special for me in this film, because I think the fact that it was improvised adds to the emotion of I can't stay with you and we didn't romantically really do anything. I need this for my memory almost. I need this so I don't regret that I didn't kiss you. And that's very powerful. Yeah. And that's even he as an older person, as a guy who's trying to do the right thing, even he probably felt guilty doing that. But he needed it because he was in love with her.
He also wanted to let her know that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, that somebody can care for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you're not a person that is hopeless.
Yes.
You know, I think that's where he kind of just gave her that final.
Yeah. And like, I think in addition to that, it's him saying, hey, I felt it too.
Yeah.
I felt it too.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great perspective. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
I guess kind of to wrap things up.
To wrap things up, I think he still said, I'll be back.
That's fair. I still think Bill Murray can do no wrong, little bit of wrong.
Wrong.
Some
wrong. Garfield.
Probably Garfield.
Yeah, probably Garfield. Any regrets?
Garfield maybe.
Garfield 2. Like you did one. Calm down, you know.
Final thoughts?
I want to re-explore this film again. I feel like there was so much subtlety and intentionality in what she was getting out of the story and locations, even though they were improvised. I think there's so much merit in that, and I love the way that it tackled themes. That, like I love your question, asking about different movies that had the same theme, and this secured it differently, and I appreciated that so much. So I love that it was able to do that. We're now reference this and say, if you want to look at a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to both to Ash and Martha's points about, I want to revisit this film every 10 years and see how I feel about it then.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to see if my perspective, because the romantic in me as a quote unquote young guy, I'm turning 28 in 2 weeks, so I'm not that young, but you know, like my perspective at this age is still the romantic man. Like I went through what she went through, but at the same time I wanted them to explore this more. I wanted to see more of this. The romantic in me was fighting for them, right? Rooting for them. But I'm pretty sure that when I'm 50, I'm going to be like, he did the right thing. He had to do this, right? And I already feel that way. But I want to see how I feel about it in 10 years. You're right. This is a revisitable film, hands down.
Yeah. I love the universal themes. For a debut, I mean, everybody hopes for a debut like this because it just seems like
you're kidding me,
such a strong film. I mean, But
and by the way, Scarlett Johansson has a habit of playing these characters, these women. I just off the top of my head, when we talk about like Chef and her character in that, her small part, but very very important character for Jon Favreau's Chef. Jon Favreau's character, you know, she's the middle kind of love interest of like, you gotta get over what you're getting over, but I'm here with you. Like, you're not lonely. Like, I'll spend the night with you. So, by the way, just to toss that in there, but
to end off, thank you to Aaron and George's.
Give it up for Aaron and George's Film Cafe.
Café de Olla.
Absolutely. This is airing still in March, so happy International Women's Month.
It airs on Monday.
It airs on, which is still March, right? Isn't it? Yeah. So check out this film, whether it's March or not, and we're glad we were able to pick it and discuss it right now.
Thank you to everybody who participated. We appreciate doing this in front of all of you and having opinions.
We'll be in touch with Aaron and George's as we always are about the next live event. And I can announce the film. I can't announce the date.
I'll announce the film.
Yeah, what's the film?
If you guys haven't seen the best movie ever made in 1996, Cable Guy.
Cable Guy.
The Cable Guy.
So if you know our podcast, we had to reschedule that day. We were supposed to record it last month, and we just couldn't. So we're making up the Cable Guy.
We better. You know,
we will.
It's just a running joke.
Oh my God.
Ben Stiller, you know.
So stay tuned for that date. Okay, we'll announce it on our social media, and Aaron and George's will help us announce it as well. So just stay tuned for that date. Thank you guys for joining us here.
Thank you so much.
On the WatchTower podcast. Keep watching cinema. Keep making your films. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you guys.
Have a good night, everybody.